going on, everybody? Welcome back to the spinoff. Today, guys, I am joined by the folks that gave me the intro music for the spinoff. I am joined here with Chris from the Killigans. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Fun.
Dude,
Glad to be here.
I got to tell you, this has been a long time coming. You guys were in contact with our host, Frank, for the Scarlet and the Cream. When you guys allowed him to use the intro for the Cornhusker as our song, and that blew up. I mean, we hear that song inside Memorial Stadium, and you guys, he talked about having you guys on then. So this has been almost like a 2.5 year in the making deal. So I could hear how excited I am to have you guys on here today.
Yeah, we are definitely always down to talk to everybody out there that is interested in our music and what we got going on. So thanks for having us.
Oh man, that's okay. I didn't mind if it was one of you guys or the entire band. It was no big deal. It was the fact that one of you decided to join the show, and I couldn't thank you enough. So we'll go into it. You guys started in 2004 in just a garage in Lincoln. What was the mindset? You guys were all made up from parts of other bands that had you decided to leave or had disbanded. And so what was the mindset going into the formation of the Killigans?
So yeah, I mean, you got it right there. It's been about that long, which seems crazy, but yeah, we kind of didn't really know what we were doing. We still don't really know what we're doing, but we definitely wanted to keep playing music. Me and Brad and my little brother Pat pretty much were the three that are still going with this. That we were in a different band, decided we wanted to do this kind of this different sound, similar makeup to our music and stuff. So, but we just changed from horns. We were a ska band. We changed from horns to these traditional accordion, mandolin type instruments. So that's kind of where that came from. There were some bands kind of blowing up back then that we really liked, and so we kind of tried to jump on that and kind of go with that sound. So yeah, I mean, we still play in the same garage. It's my grandparents' old garage from way back when in the 50s. So we still go strong there every Sunday night, and that's kind of how it happened. We had a couple other original members that have come and gone, and they were from other local bands as well. And so I've got actually two other brothers in the band. My older brother Trevor plays bass. He was in some old bands some old punk band in the 90s. And so yeah, it's just kind of that's how it's kind of come. And we still do this because people still care. People still come to shows. They still want our music. They still reach out to us on Facebook and ask us to come do interviews. So as long as that keeps happening, we'll keep playing. So
And I hope you guys do too, because man, I got to tell you, the kind of music you guys play, that like Irish folk punk rock sound, even just the last 2 nights of work that I had to go through, I had you guys and Dropkick Murphys all night for 2 straight nights, because that your guys' type of music is just so uplifting. It keeps you in a good mood. It makes you want to move. So, is that something you guys really set out to do with your music right away? Was we're going to be that band that's going to make you move, and you're going to have a good time whether you want to or not?
Yeah, I mean, we try. It's always just kind of a crapshoot what comes out and how it ends up. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of why you fall in love with this kind of music, is because it's fun. And you mentioned the word uplifting, which is good to hear, because that's kind of me as a songwriter. That's kind of my goal. Like, we do have maybe some more politically charged or motivated songs and some protest type songs, but at the same time, uh, music kind of, it helps a lot of people in different ways. So if we can be uplifting to somebody, that's awesome. And if people take different meanings from our words and our music, that's awesome too. But it's kind of just a big gamut there. So, but yeah, that the style of music does lend itself well to having a good time. You know, it's not real emotional, like sad music. I mean, it can be, but overall, the vibe, I guess, is that we're trying to we're trying to put out a positive message as much as we can. At the same time, holding people accountable when they need to be held accountable. So
Yeah, I gotta say, you guys' music it's as I said, it is uplifting. It keeps you in a good mood. It does not let those little terrorizing thoughts of the day's stress creep into there. It just helps you keep moving. Sometimes I don't even hear the lyrics. I just hear the music. And to me, the music is just the universal language. It brings everybody together. So with you guys being a Nebraska based band and doing Irish folk punk rock, is did you find it maybe a little bit harder considering that there's not a huge Irish stamp in the center of America as there is, say, the East Coast?
right, yeah, definitely. So like I said, back 15 years ago, the scene was a little bit more, I guess, it was newer and it was a little bit exciting. So we kind of jumped in that, but we're like, at the same time, we're like, well, my mom's side of my family is Irish. My dad's side's actually Ukrainian immigrants. So we're not really Irish, and we don't have like we don't have a long history of struggle in that way. So so we kind of took the music, and my cat's like scratching my wall up over here.
First for the show. I love it. Yes.
She's gone. All right. So yeah, we don't really, or we didn't set out to say, all right, we're going to be this Patty Punk, uh, Leprechauns and Lucky Charms band, but the music was really fun, and that melody was something that the melodies that we did, it wasn't something that everybody did, so it was fun and new. We don't sing songs about Ireland. We don't sing songs about some of that cliche stuff. And we might have started a little bit when we were new, but we quickly realized that it wasn't sustainable. So we're like, we got to sing about what we want to sing about, things that are relevant to us, but we can still keep the same kind of feel to the music. So if what you get out of our music is the actual music and the feel of it, that's awesome. Other people maybe listen to the lyrics and really take those to heart, but just depends on the person. But yeah, the scene, there is no Irish punk scene in Nebraska. I mean, we're it. There may be a handful of other bands doing some of the Irish folk music that may be a little more um, in the way of musically. They're probably more talented than us, and they can play really fast reels and jigs and whatnot and play things the right way. But what we do is kind of just the whole experience, and we didn't want to pigeon. We found early on that we were going to get pigeonholed as the Irish band, and people were going to love that at first, but then they were going to be like, yeah, I seen that. We're not going to come out anymore. So we quickly realized we've got to diversify and make this something that you don't have to love Irish punk or Irish music at all to come watch us. So some people still can't let that go, and they maybe haven't seen us in 10 or 12 years, and they're like, yeah, they're doing the same thing, but we don't. We do a lot of stuff. Brad's a big country guy, and you can hear country music in a lot of his songs. We, like I mentioned, the Ukrainian stuff. We really like the Eastern European sounds as well. And then we just like to play punk music and rock music that is just kind of straight up. We always joke that it's just straight up rock and roll. So from a former member in our band that used to say that. So we like to do songs that they don't have any accordion or any mandolin or anything in it. It's just drums and guitars and loud singing and sing along. So that's kind of where we are. But at the same time, we've made friends with a lot of bands around the country, and there is still a scene. It's just not necessarily, there is no, you mentioned East Coast.
Mhm.
There definitely is a lot of it on the East Coast and the West Coast. So but we kind of pal around with some of these bands from the Midwest and some of the East Coast guys, and we've made friends over the years, and we get together once a year or so and get to play some fun shows with those guys.
Now, saying that you guys kind of, when you formed, you kind of jumped on the wagon of the Irish punk rock scene. Did did you kind of look at it and be like, all right, we can actually rock with this? Is that something that you decided once you started doing it, how much fun it was, and realized that maybe this is the direction instead of just a bandwagon?
Yes. That's a good point. You know, when we before we made the switch, and I say like a switch, like it was kind of natural for us because when you if you listen to our music, you can sub a lot of the traditional instruments like accordion or mandolin or banjo. You can sub that out with a trombone and a trumpet and a saxophone and a little bit of different guitar beat, and you can have your third wave ska from 1996, and you can it's very similar. I mean, we do have some Irishy kind of melodies in there. And originally, when we first wrote these songs, they were on horns, and we're like, Flogging Molly was fairly new back then, and we're like,
Yep.
let's try and write this Irishy sounding melody on horns, and we actually have them recorded that way. And so yeah, we started out as this ska band, and we'd have a spattering of people at our shows. But once we moved over and had these, I don't know, more interesting instruments and different kind of sounding songs, people started coming to the shows, and then it kind of was infectious that way to where, okay, now we actually got people here and they're kind of going crazy, and the whole room's full of people and they're going crazy, and they're everyone's having a good time. So it was infectious in that way. So we're like, yeah, let's just keep this going and see where it takes us. And we had some decent success locally in that manner. So yeah, it's pretty natural for us to want to keep doing that with like I said, with little tweaks here and there to keep it interesting and honest.
So, with as long as you guys have been doing this, I mean, show after show, year after year, can you pick out what was just the one show where nothing clicked? Just the audience just wasn't in it. Maybe you guys just weren't in it that night. And then on the flip side of that, where was the biggest pop you ever got?
That's funny. There's been a lot of those shows over the years because we play. We do okay local, but there's still some stinker local shows that happen on a lot of times. And it's been a while since COVID, but you know, we would get requests for touring bands to come through. Hey, we want to play Lincoln. We're like, oh, awesome. We really like you guys, but it's a Tuesday night, and that's the only night we're gonna be here. So we would we would kind of force those shows into Lincoln, and a lot of times sometimes it was good, but a lot of times, it's Tuesday night in the middle of the summer, nobody's here, no one cares. So a lot of those shows were sparsely attended. But I can probably knock this question out with one tour. And basically, we we had this show booked in Washington D.C. back in, it was probably 6 years ago or so, and it was a Shamrock Fest, and it was like this really big festival out at the old RFK Stadium out there,
I've
and
heard of that one.
in the parking lot. And so they had some big bands like Dropkick play in years past, and I think that year the headliner was Sublime with Rome. So Bradley Noel obviously died a
Yep.
while back, and I don't know what Sublime does these days, but they've got this Rome guy singing with them. And there was a couple other big bands on that bill too. But so we're like, okay, Lincoln always has this big St. Patrick's Day show. We don't want to miss it because I think St. Patrick's Day was on a weekend that year, and that's always a really fun big show. So what we did was we were going to play the Shamrock Fest, drive straight back, and play Lincoln on St. Patrick's Day. I think it was a Saturday or Sunday. So we rented an RV and drove, and we stopped in Philadelphia on the way to DC. And we're going to play the show with these other bands, a couple other East Coast. I think they're from Portland, Maine, actually. But so we get there late because of traffic or whatever. And I thought we were supposed to kind of be the bigger band of the night, even though we weren't the local band. And so we kind of show up, and they're like, all right, you guys are on, and you got 15 minutes to play. So we show up, and the sound guy is just a total like drag. He just doesn't want to deal with us, and it was just a really bad experience. But so we get up there after driving 20 hours or whatever it was, and we play 15 minutes for a decent crowd. And then we go to DC and we play we played to like a couple thousand people the next day, and that was awesome. So then we jump in our van, drive all the way, or it was an RV actually. We drive all the way back without stopping overnight. Like pulled like shifts on the driver, and then we played a really fun Lincoln show. I don't remember that exactly the details, but yeah, that show in Philly was kind of just it was just kind of funny because the sound guy was so pissed off that it was like we were putting him out to have to play. And but yeah, that was one of those where you're kind of up there and you're like, I don't even know why we're bothering playing 4 songs and then getting off stage for the local guys. But yeah, I mean those shows happen a lot. There was another tour we did back in 2010 where we stopped in we were in Cincinnati in this sketchy neighborhood, and I think we walked in the venue and there was maybe 2 people in there and no sound guy, and we ended up just not playing. We just didn't feel like it. We're like, yeah, we're gonna sit this one out because it's gonna be more effort for us to set up and play, and we didn't even know if the sound guy was gonna show up, but I think he eventually did. But yeah, that was another one of those where we drove like 6 hours out of our way to play. We didn't even play. So but yeah, it happens. It happens to every band. Where you get those really bad ones that you kind of just look at each other up there. You're like, what are we even doing?
So as long as you guys have been doing this, you've got to have, so there's got to be at least one crazy story from the road or just one crazy story from a show. And there's no censorship on this show. So is there anything that you're legally able to talk about?
um, I got to think here. I mean, there's a lot of so the deal with our band is a we're not we always joke we're not a drug band. We don't do drugs. We don't care about drugs. I mean, we'll drink alcohol, but we've never been that band that's we got to score this or that. We like fast food and we like pizza, so we joke that we're like the junk food band. So but yeah, as far as like crazy stuff on stage, we used to have this mandolin player named Zach that was really fun. I've seen him; he would play, and this happens a lot. But I remember looking at him, and he would hit his hand on the strings sometimes. I know in one show he was just bleeding out of one of his fingers all over his mandolin. I mean, there's just blood caked on it and dried on it. That was pretty gross. But yeah, I think some of the worst or just the craziest things that happen to us are self-inflicted things like and usually alcohol induced. So I know we've had to play shows with very limited drummer capacity. So for whatever reason, like if you're a drummer, you
Yep.
drummers don't understand, like they're the one guy in the band that can't get completely bombed. Like
Yeah.
anyone else in the band can probably get away with it and fake their way through, but if you're a drummer, you're on display. Everyone can see it, and if you can't do it, then it's out there. So we've had shows where we've had to kind of ignore what the drummers is doing and just slosh through and get through. And then we've had other people in the band at big shows at the Bourbon Theater in front of a couple hundred people where all of a sudden bass player he just disappeared, was gone all of a sudden. And I think it was the last show of the night, he was just gone. He had to like take a breather in the alley and come to and things like that. So yeah, I'm trying to think if there was anything more crazy. We used to do this Christmas show every year at Knickerbocker's. That was one of my favorites, where we would kind of decorate the stage and kind of we would we started. My sister does a lot of our merch sales for us, so she'll sit
Nice.
at the merch table and she will she, for whatever reason, she always buys Little Debbie snack cakes. Like if it's Christmas time, she's got these stupid Christmas tree snack cakes. So
Yep.
like in like 50 boxes of them, and we just throw them out to the crowd. And so some shows, some years, and Knickerbockers was great because they would let us just destroy that place, and we would throw snack cakes at the crowd. They would throw them back at us. They're mashed into the floor at the end of the night. Same thing, throwing things at the crowd. Our original kid we had in the band, Greg, he said something early on St. Patrick's Day show. He said something about throwing your beer cans on stage, and someone hucked a beer can, and it wasn't empty, it was a full beer can, and hit him in the bridge of the nose, and I'm pretty sure he was bleeding from that. So yeah, that was the last time anyone ever said anything about throwing those. I think the Little Debbie cakes, one of our guys was throwing them a little too hard at the crowd once too, and we got some back at us. That kind of stuff is just fun. And then we have this toilet paper gun where we can hook a roll of toilet paper on the end of a leaf blower,
Yeah.
and that's really fun at those shows where we can just coat the crowd in toilet paper. And my little brother was trying to shoot it out at a Christmas show, and it got stuck in the fans, and it just kept coming back on stage. So I mean, the stage was just covered in toilet paper, and Little Debbie's were everywhere. So yeah, those are fun shows. That's about as crazy as we get on stage. But yeah, I'm sure there's way better stories. I wish those other guys would have called in, because they probably would help me out, as far as on stage stuff goes. But yeah, it's always fun.
Yeah, I can attest to what you said about drummers. I've played drums for a long time. Yeah, if we're impaired at all, just forget it.
Yep.
Hopefully you have a
Yep.
stand-in.
Yeah. We've had it a couple times, and it's always an adventure. So
All right. So looking into it, you guys, the shows you guys have played, you've already mentioned Flogging Molly, and you guys have played with Flogging Molly. You've played with Flatfoot 56, numerous other bands. What was it like to play with a band like Flogging Molly? Because I've been a fan of theirs for quite some years as well. As I said, I'm a fan of this type of music, so I obviously follow those types of bands. What was it like to be on in a show with Flogging Molly?
yeah, I think we've actually played with Flogging Molly 2 or 3 times. I can't remember now, and it's been a little while, but really cool. Basically, you get to use their crowd, so you get to open up for a built-in crowd of 1,000, plus people. So that's always really cool. The first time we played with them, I was a little disappointing because I think we had just lost our mandolin player, so we were a 5-piece, and it was pretty lame. Like the show, it was outside at West Fair Amphitheater,
Wow.
and it was an earlier show, or we had an earlier slot, which is understandable, obviously. But no, they're really cool dudes. Dave King and Bridget, I think they're married now, and they kind of keep to themselves in the bus, and they do this almost 300 plus nights a year.
Yeah.
So they're not gonna go out and converse with all the little tiny local bands. But overall, I know Trevor, my brother, he got to be decent, online friends with like Matt Hensley and Nathan Maxwell and those guys. So Matt Hensley's an old skateboard dude, and my brother kind of bonds with, because they're the similar age. So they get a bond like that kind of stuff. And Hensley we would talk back and forth every once in a while online about what else, whatever. And but definitely really cool guys. They would always be down to earth and talk to you backstage and whatnot. And um, I can't really complain about any bands we've ever played with, of being kind of that typical, what you hear about. You hear the bad things about
Yeah.
the band. You don't usually hear the good things. We didn't get the chance to open for Dropkick. I think that was got rained out last year at West Fair. It was supposed to be a halfway to St. Patrick's Day. I think it might have been Dropkick and Rancid. I don't even remember now, but it was going to be a fun show, but that got canceled the day before, or the couple days before. So, but we played with a couple other decent sized bands. Like we played with Ben Folds here in Lincoln with Blue October, which not even in the same realm of genre, but I will give props to Blue October, their lead singer. I can't even think of his name. That guy was really cool.
Yeah.
He talked to us for a long time backstage, and just like, he didn't have to. Ben Folds stayed in his trailer, which normal big shot dudes do. And the Blue October guys were really friendly and hung out. And usually you see that with a lot of bands out there. But Flatfoot, you mentioned Flatfoot. Those guys have been doing this a little longer than us, and they were just 16-year-old kids when they started. And so we kind of watched them grow up, and we've made friends with them. And we'll get together at least once a year or so and play really fun shows with them out in Chicago or in Denver or here in Lincoln or Omaha. And so it's kind of been a fun journey to kind of be with those guys and just kind of be a tier down from them. And I feel like we kind of bring it on ourselves to be at the level we're at, because we all have families and jobs and
Yep.
mortgages and whatnot. We can't necessarily devote as much time to this as some bands can. And so but we're on their side. We try and help those guys out whenever we can. And I actually, Tobin just texted me the other day with a new Flatfoot song. So he said, spread the word. We just did this. It's a really good song. So if you guys are listening, you want some new Irish punk music, Flatfoot just threw a new song called "Sorry" out, and it's really awesome. So, but yeah, those guys, it's fun to have those relationships at any level. Like I said, with a band like Floggy Molly and Matt Hensley, or the Street Dogs were another huge influence on us out of Boston, and Mike McColgan was one of the original Dropkick singers, and he started the Street Dogs, who were a huge influence of ours for a long time. They, kind of slowed down, and I don't even think they're together right now. But Mike McColgan and Johnny Rio was their bass player, and I know Trevor bonded with some of those guys over some of his motorcycle skills and whatnot. So yeah, it's always fun to meet those bigger bands and who do this for a living.
So it obviously, literally as long as you guys have been doing this, you've met a lot of different types of bands. Has there been a certain one where, even if it wasn't a mainstream band, that you guys were kind of starstruck and like, how did we get this gig?
Yeah. um I kind of mentioned some of them here, but it, it's kind of surreal when you're you're having to show up for these shows hours in advance, and you have to count your merch, and you have to tell them how much merch you sell, because they want a cut of it and this and that. Those kinds of shows where we're just like, we just want to set our crappy table up and sell our shirts, under the table and whatnot. We're not out here trying to make money. So it's kind of always, you have to put your big boy pants on when it's those shows, and you have to actually, you have to try, even though it's supposed to be for fun. For those guys, that's their life and that's their job. So, uh, yeah, I mentioned Floggy Molly a couple times, the Ben Folds deal at Pinewood Bowl, which was a big deal for us, just to have to play to our hometown in a really weird venue that you don't ever really get to play often. That was kind of weird. And that was a good experience. I thought we played really well that show. Had a good show. But yeah, like, I think some of the biggest ones for me that kind of throw you off are when you go to big cities like Chicago, and you're playing a room that's completely full of 1,000 people. They're not there for you. They're there for Flat 56 or whoever, but they love that music and they love your music. And so then you're kind of out there right before Flatfoot, and the crowd's just crazy. And it's just kind of you don't get that in Lincoln all the time, just because they can come see you whenever they want. But in Chicago, you just got to multiply it by that many more people. So it just kind of elevates the game a little bit. There's been a handful of those shows in Chicago where it just takes it up a notch. And so, but as far as being starstruck, uh, I don't know. Like, we're so laid back, like, that it would take a lot. I'm trying to think one of the, you know, I don't know. I think that Ben Folds is probably one of the bigger acts we've opened for, and he just pulled your normal, big act thing where he just didn't get to see him too much. So unfortunately, I don't have a great example of that. And to us, a lot of the cool stuff is the old school dudes from the 80s and 90s that are still playing. And I know Trevor gets excited when bands like TSOL or the Toasters or stuff like that, or Agent Orange, when those guys come through, bands that were before my time, but they were such a huge deal in the underground world to people like him and other fans of the genre. So when you get to play with those guys, it's just kind of like, I know in Trevor's head, he's like, nobody really understands how big a deal this is that we're playing with bands like this, but he does. So I guess Trevor would have been way better to answer that for you, but yeah, it's been fun. And after the fact, like we played with a band that I love from Southern California called Old Man Markley a while back at Duffy's in Lincoln, and they're a bluegrass punk band, and they're not around right now, but I love those guys, and I love them more now than I did back then, and I just kind of like look back and wish I would have known a little more at the time and had more time, but you kind of lose out on some of that stuff when you don't when you're kind of lazy about new music and things like that. So
Hey, speaking of new music, you guys wrote and performed the song "The Cornhusker."
mhm.
And we now have that as our intro song for the Scarlet and the Cream podcast. And you hear it at Memorial Stadium in between the third and fourth quarter, which it sounds to me like they're trying to use this song as kind of like what Wisconsin uses for jump in between the third and fourth. Now, was that your guys' plan writing this song, or was it just we're from Lincoln? Why have we not done this yet?
Yeah, it was not our intention to do that. It never was. In the back of all of our heads, that the ones who were involved in that project, it probably was a little bit like, oh, this would be awesome if this would happen. But it wasn't like we sat down around the table and we're like, all right, we gotta come up with something so they play it in the stadium. That wasn't the deal. And it's funny because we, Dropkick has songs for the Boston Bruins.
Oh, a lot, a lot.
One of our other favorite bands called the Briggs out of LA has a song for LA called This Is LA. And I think they played at the Kings and whatnot. And so we're like, this is this genre lends itself well to sports mixed with music. And
Yeah.
we're not, we are, all of us in our band played sports for the most part. Like we're not like your typical band geeks, even though we were band geeks at one point in time, and we still are. But we're not your hipster dudes. Like we kind of like everything, but at the same time, we love our sports. We love Husker football. We grew up in the golden era, the second golden era, whatever you want to call it, the '90s, mid
Yep.
'90s, and so.
Yep.
So we're like, all right, Dropkick does the Boston Bruins. They do whatever else they do. So what can we do for it's college, so it's a little bit different. So we can't just like, you know, we can't do the exact same thing. So
Yeah.
what we like to do is we play old covers of old folk songs. We have one for Santiano. We've tried other ones too, but we're like, is there any old like Nebraska fight songs? Like there's got to be some. You see Michigan, you see Ohio State and
Yeah.
other programs singing these traditional fight songs after the games, locked in arm, whatever. Like Nebraska doesn't have anything like that we knew of. So um, our old drummer Ben had tried to write a song called "The Sea of Red," and I'm pretty sure me and Brad had tried as well to write our own. And if you ever sit down and try and write a fight song for a football team, it's horrible. It was no, it was the corniest thing ever. I mean, no pun intended, but like you just can't do it. It's without sounding completely dumb and just you're whatever. I'm sure there's tons of bands that have done it, but we're not that band. We still wanted to be taken serious, and so we just scrapped it. Well, years go by, and I don't know how it came up, but Pat, he played in the marching band for Nebraska while he was there, and he said, "Oh, well, we used to play this song called the Cornhusker, whatever can't think of the band director's there's name, but he's like, yeah, Falcone, I think is his name. He said this is one he always had us play. We would sing it, and so Pat sent us the music, and we're kind of like, yeah, it's okay. I could kind of see it work, and then Brad. I think how it went down was Brad recorded something on his phone or something of him doing it, and I probably shot it down because that's just what I do in the band is shoot everybody's ideas down. That's what they'll have you think. That's not
There's
true.
got to be
But
somebody to keep everyone in line.
right, you can't just let everything go through. We'll have a million corny, terrible Husker fight songs. But anyways, so Brad did that, and I thought half of it was good. The verse part was fine, but it didn't have it didn't have enough of a sing-songy, sing-along part. So at some point in time, we came back to it like a year later and we're like, let's try this again. And I think we came up with what it ended up being. And at the same time, we didn't want to make this a rock and roll song where it was just like a traditional drum beat and this and that. So it kind of, what we wanted it to be was something that anyone at any tailgate or wherever could just start singing the words. We wanted it to be fairly basic. We didn't want a bunch of electric guitars and drums in it. So we're like, let's just do this kick drum beat, kind of a driving beat, and kind of like so you could just do it wherever you want. And that's kind of how it ended up. We went in and recorded it in the fall of 20. I don't remember what year it was. 2014. I don't know. Bo Pelini was coach.
Yep.
And I remember mixing it during a horrible Minnesota debacle. I think we lost like 54 to something ridiculous. It was.
I believe that's how Bo got fired.
Yeah, I remember it just being so pissed off while we were mixing the song because of the game. And but yeah, it ended. That's what we ended with. And it kind of hung out there and people liked it. And we had Ryan Tweedy make a video for it, and it did really well. And then it kind of died away for a couple of years until just recently it kind of just had this resurgence for whatever reason. And it's probably because they started playing it at that. I think they played it after halftime for a while, and then all of a sudden the next year maybe they came out and they tried it after the third quarter, and they actually put the words up on the scoreboard or up on the screen. And so I think it kind of started to take hold until COVID hit. But I don't know what's going to happen. But yeah, we never set out to make it that song. It just kind of evolved, and I think someone finally started to understand, like, oh, hey, this could be something if we did it right. If we put the words up on the screen, there's a sing-along part, and it's a pretty cool part. And so, yeah, it just depends on where people want to go with it. It's not Jump Around, it's not Thunderstruck, or it's not Highway to Hell or whatever. And there's a ton of songs you could do in that spot, but that song is it's very it's traditional Nebraska. It's traditional, but at the same time, you can still sing it today. And if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. We've had any end of the spectrum with people who like it or hate it, and we didn't. There's things we could have done different and better, but that's what it is, and it's out there. So we hope that they keep using it. We don't know. We've never talked to anybody about it, but we kind of hope that it kind of gets going again, and people, the longer it's out there, the more people like it, instead of the opposite.
Well, I know during our podcast during the football season, everybody hears it coming into the episode, everybody hears it going out of the episode, so it ain't dying off with us anytime soon, that's for sure.
Nice. Yeah, I've had people send me videos of bars in California and all over the country that play it, in Florida. So yeah, I know it's serving its purpose well, and hopefully it's just kind of bringing fans together. So
I'll admit the first season we started doing our podcast, I was watching one of the games on TV, and they were coming back from commercial break, and that song was playing in Memorial Stadium. I texted Frank right away. I about lost my shit. I said, they're playing our intro song at Memorial Stadium by the Killigans. This is amazing. So when we heard that, we knew you guys had to be onto something. So
yeah.
Thank you guys for making that song, because it is, I'll listen to it at work and my feet are stomping, I'm dancing. I look like an idiot at a weld shop.
Yeah, I'm sure you're not the only one. I hear it a lot. So yeah, that's awesome.
All right, so moving on from that, Lessons from an Empty Glass was used in the 2010 make of Robin Hood. Now, how the heck did that happen? And what was your guys' thought? Like, how did we even get here?
Yeah, that's another one of those crazy things. And so that song was off our first album. I don't remember anything about how I actually wrote that song, the melody, in which it's just a weird deal that it happened, but probably just me tooling around on the mandolin and came up with it, and it kind of stuck as far as our band goes. And like recording it on our first album, it just kind of we recorded it was about 2000. I don't remember when that first album came out, 06 or so. But yeah, it hung out there, and all of a sudden someone called me from Universal Studios, and I remember walking into Menards, because I'm a Menards junkie. I'm always working on something on my house. So I'm walking into Menards, I get this random phone call, I answer, and they're like, "This is so and so. I work for Relativity Media, and we want to use this song. We need a synchronization license." And I'm like, "I don't know what that is," and I thought it was a joke. And so
I was going to say, did you even believe him?
no, I did not believe him. And uh, it's kind of funny because um, we were just talking about this the other day at work, and one of the dudes at work was saying how he had a spam phone call come through, and I was like, "Oh, was that something about your car warranty, or someone wanted to buy your house?" And he's like, "Yeah, no, it was something about credit card." And I was like, he's like, I thought it. One of the dudes I work with, he's from England, and he said in England they have a lottery that you just get your name entered into, and he won it, and he didn't believe that he had won it. It was like $5,000 that he had won, and he's like, he thought it was a joke. So I was telling him the story about how he's walking in Menards and Universal Studios calls, and I thought it was a joke. I thought it was someone playing a prank. So, anyways, yeah, they wanted to buy this song, and so I had to get lawyers, and the lawyers did their negotiations and whatnot, and so they gave me I gave them rights to use that song, and they were going to re-record it with the period instruments or whatever you see in the movie. So yeah, that was kind of a crazy deal. And the lawyer's like, "Yeah, someone told me that once you get one of these songs picked up, like there's potential for a whole bunch more." So we were excited. I was like, "Oh, another song I got called about, one of Brad's songs, and they were going to use that in another Relativity Media was going to use it again, but I never heard anything about that one. It never came back. So unfortunately, that one didn't go through. But yeah, so it's on a mediocre Robin Hood Russell Crowe movie, and it's out there forever. And my kids always think it's kind of cool that I got my name. The very last credit in that movie is my name. So, but it was fun at the time. It would be nice if we had more of those, but yeah, it kind of got your name out there, and just kind of one of those things you can cross off your list to say as an accomplishment. And yeah.
See, that's amazing that it was just out of the blue. I mean, you weren't expecting this at all. You
No.
obviously had no idea that anybody at Universal Studios even knew about your guys' music. So
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what you felt when you realized that it was the real thing and not just a prank. Was it
Yeah.
just like, was it a matter of looking around and wondering how the hell they even got a hold of this?
Yeah, it was. And I think the only thing I never heard, like they never told me where they got it. And I'm guessing they have people that's their job. And I know nowadays it's a lot different. Like I think there's just databases of music out there for people to go through, and people to submit their music. I know we got a buddy here in Lincoln that gets this music in a lot of like HGTV and stuff like that, just like guitar riffs and whatnot. And so I think what happened, my best guess is one of the actors that played in that movie, I don't even remember what his part was, but he had the longer hair, and he is in a band in Canada called Great Big Sea, who's one of the biggest Canadian bands there are. He's one of their singers, and my guess is that he helped them find this, because I know Great Big Sea probably had a couple songs, or he personally had a couple of his songs in the movie. So my guess is, since he was kind of, they're not necessarily an Irish band, but they do have that folk band, but they're a pretty big band up there, and I'm guessing he had something to do with finding that song. That's my best guess. So
All right, so moving along then, you guys got some shows coming up because obviously with St. Patrick's Day, you guys better be doing something. Otherwise, there could be a riot on our hands. So
yeah.
Wednesday the 17th, you guys are going to be at the Boombox for a 6 to 8:30 p.m. show that's going to be an acoustic set. Now, granted, you guys posted on the Facebook that it had to be moved from, I believe you said Haymarket to Boombox due to the weather, of course. But what went into the decision to do a more intimate acoustic set on St. Patrick's Day this year?
So So obviously with COVID, we haven't been doing anything as far as the only shows we've played have been in conjunction with King Cater. So uh, the King Cater dudes like have this Oktoberfest circuit basically. So they got their their three areas. They got Broken Bow, Grand Island, and Lincoln now. So they kind of do this Oktoberfest thing in the fall. It kind of coincides with Husker football a little bit. So we found they do have a really great outdoor venue up in Broken Bow that we did in October, September-ish during COVID. It was outside, as much as socially distanced as you could get, I guess, out in Broken Bow, Nebraska. But it was a really good show. That was the last time we actually played as a full band. But we also did a Grand Island show inside, with masks and things, and it was acoustic. I don't think we had any drums. So basically, like, we try and we try not to like get thousands of people into our show because we know it's irresponsible. But at the same time, we think it's the numbers where they are now, and with the protocols in place, it's allowed in the city. So we're going to go ahead and do this. The reason we're doing acoustic, it just has to do with some of the timing and with how certain members of the band feel. And so we're like, let's not bring in the full crew yet. So so what we did was we hired a drummer for the show because we played acoustic without drums, and it's kind of boring. Like, our music is just kind of it needs some of that drive behind it to make it right. So we did these. We did a fundraiser deal in the fall as well, and it went fine. We had a big kick drum that Brad played like a high school marching drum. We got some spoons, we got a washboard, and just a bunch of tambourines and egg shakers. We just got a bunch of crap that we can throw a beat to. It kind of makes it fun for us. We switch instruments around and whatnot. So we're like, we're going to do that again because it's some of these shows like outside at different venues or inside breweries. We love to play these all the craft breweries and stuff, but the full band just doesn't quite feel right. This big rock show inside these small places. So that's why we kind of started doing these acoustic ones. It's kind of a lot of bands are doing it. You see Dropkick doing it every once in a while. Flogging Molly will do it. Everybody, it's kind of a more intimate, more fun deal. But at the same time, we kind of only some of us know how to play our instruments at all very well. So the rest of us just kind of we suck and we just mash around. And so it's like, let's bring in a drummer. So we hired our original drummer from our old band, Brad, and he's never played with us before. Some of these songs are actually that old that he knows how to play them. But we bought this crazy stand-up cocktail drum kit, and he's been practicing with us, just playing really like basic stuff, and it adds a lot, and it's fun. It's different. We actually have practice tonight at 7. We're going to try and finish up getting ready. And so it was supposed to be outside in front of the train down in the Haymarket, which is what it was for Oktoberfest. But we're not going to try because it's supposed to be horrible out. And, I mean, March weather is, hit or miss. We've had great St. Patrick's Days. We've had horrible ones. So it's not worth the risk to have nobody be there. So Cody said they're going to try and, I think, open the side garage door at Boombox. So there is like an open air feel to it, and there's going to be breeze blowing through. And obviously Lincoln's got their mandates and whatnot. So they're not going to let X amount of people that aren't supposed to be there in and whatnot. So that's how that's going to go. And acoustic, we'll play mostly the same songs. There are a couple cover songs and Irishy type stuff that we'll do that we don't always do for full band shows. So that's kind of fun for us to do. And I'll also point out that Brad, our singer, dislocated one of his ring finger or his middle finger on his fretboard hand about 3 weeks ago now, snowboarding. And so he kind of blew it off like, oh, no big deal. Well, I'm like, dude, I fell down the stairs and bent my finger backwards, and it took like 6 months for that thing to stop being swollen. So needless to say, he's not playing guitar at either of these shows because he can't bend his finger yet. So it could be interesting, a little bit different. He likes to have his guitar in front of him because he feels like he needs it, and he's not the lead singer guy to run around and like, whip the crowd up. But the guitar is kind of a prop for him a little bit. So, but no, he's not going to have it this time. So it'll be kind of fun to see what he does with that.
Hey, whatever you need is a security blanket to help you get through it. It's fine. All right. Now, at the same time, this next Saturday, the 20th of March, you guys, it's a full band show, full on everything at Zoo Bar from 5 to 8. So, kind of an early show for everybody on a Saturday. I say, why not? Now, is this something that you guys just look forward to every year to put on that weekend show on St. Patty's week?
Yeah, we've kind of gone back and forth over the years. After the first St. Patrick's Day or second one, we didn't know how long this was going to keep going. Like we played Knickerbockers to 100 people the first year, and then like the next 3 years it was sold out and like just crazy stuff. And so you never know when this is going to end. So we've gone to where we've done it on a Tuesday night on St. Patrick's Day. We've done it to where we do it the weekend before, the weekend after. So we hit a weekend, and we kind of finally just decided, you know what, let's just keep it on St. Patrick's Day, even if it's a horrible weekday show. But at the same time, as we watched the numbers starting to drop, and we said, I reached out to the Bourbon and I said, hey, what are your thoughts? This was a month or two ago. I said, are you guys I see the numbers dropping. I'm worried if we don't book something, shows are going to open up, the city's going to open a little bit back up, and then we're going to kind of be left on the sideline because we don't have anything ready to go. So the Bourbon was really cool. They're like, you know what, we're thinking April is when we're going to start being able to have some kind of shows again. Don't know how they're going to look, but so we kind of looked around. We're like, well, where else can we do this? Somewhere smaller, where they're still doing shows. I saw the zoo was still doing shows in some sort of capacity. So we reached out to Pete and the guys at the zoo, and they were all on board. I don't know how it's going to look as far as inside. I know that they're at a certain capacity. I don't know if it's 50% or 70% or what it is. So you're not going to get 150 people in there jam packed. That's just not going to happen. But yeah, this will be our first show in a bar with our full band since we played in Denver in February last year with Flat 56. So we haven't done this since then, and it's going to look a little different. I'm guessing people are going to sit. They're going to be required to sit, which happens at the zoo a lot, anyways. And then I don't know what else is going to look like, but we had a big show planned for last year at the Bourbon. We bought a round of shirts, special shirts designed by our original merch, old drummer Ben. They're still sitting in our garage, so we're giving those out. We got glow sticks that we're throw out. We got like these 2 giant blow up leprechauns that we were going to throw out into the crowd, and confetti cannons, which I don't know if the zoo's going to be real keen on us blowing stuff up in there, but we're used to making a mess. But I kind of feel bad doing it to the zoo for whatever reason. So, but anyways, we got koozies too. We bought a bunch of stuff and crap for this show. We were just going to throw it all out last year, and then the world shut down, so it's just been sitting in a box. So if you do get into the zoo bar, it's going to be, us trying to work off our COVID 30 or 40 pounds we put on, and trying not to sweat ourselves off the stage. But yeah, we're going to throw it's $10 or whatever they're charging, but we're going to give you some stuff to get home with, and we'll try and make it as close to festival or the festive St. Patrick's Day as possible with the conditions where they are right now. And hopefully as things open up, we'll get back into, different kinds of shows and stuff like that.
So as always, the Killigans just giving the fans what they want and definitely getting their money's worth, if not more.
Yeah. Yep.
Right,
We always figure there's at least one show a year where we can charge a decent amount to get in, as long as we throw a bunch of crap at people and we get t-shirts and whatever else we throw at them, Little Debbie's maybe.
Well, yeah, you got to feel like you got your money's worth.
We probably need to go check Menards to find out if they have any Shamrock Little Debbie's before the show. I'll have to put somebody on that.
I'm going to Google that for you right when we're done with this. And if I find it, I'm going to send a little message to you. You guys be able to get them.
Yep. Do it, man.
All right, Chris. So this is where I turn this over to you. We've already talked about the two shows you got coming up this week. So this is where you tell people where they can find you guys on social media, any other shows you may have coming up in the next few months or so, or the rest of the year. And then at the same time, any organizations or charities that the Killigans might be a part of. This is your time to let everybody know.
Yeah. So Killigans are everywhere that you need. That every band is. iTunes, Facebook. We do most of our promotion off of Facebook just for sake of ease. We do have an Instagram where we'll throw stuff up every once in a while. We don't. We do have Twitter, and I forget about Twitter a lot. I know it's big in the sports community, but I always forget about Twitter just because I'm never on there. But yeah, Bandcamp. If you want to listen to our music, Bandcamp, YouTube, everything's out there. Unfortunately, you found out about YouTube and how they
Yeah.
operate,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's wherever you want to find our music, it's there. Our website is thekilligans.com, but it's pretty outdated, and I don't know if anyone uses websites anymore. So, but yeah, for what's coming up, we basically got these couple shows this week, and then we've got a boatload of new songs that we basically what we did once COVID happened back this summer. We took our shop and we ripped it all out, everything out. We repainted it. We put a carpet in. We basically made it a recording studio in there. And so we went in and we started working on music, and we have like a boatload of new songs that we don't even know how to play yet, and nobody knows how to play them. We've got demos made. So what I'm thinking, what we're going to try and do is get into the studio and record at least one album, and try and get that out this year, in 2021. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, just because we're busy, but we need to do this. But there'll be more shows. We're doing. I know we have Sydney, Nebraska Oktoberfest already booked. We've got the Kincaider Oktoberfest are already booked for the fall. I don't know if there'll be tailgates this year like there have been in the past with the Cornhusker. We used to do the tailgate for all the home games. I don't know if that'll happen or not, but I'm hoping we can get on the road and play some shows too once that happens. It maybe not happen till the summer or later, but we'll see. As far as charities that we support, we like to devote a lot of time to Nowhere BMX out of where are they out of? Over down Highway 2, Unadilla. We got a friend, Carl Hinkley, who runs this basically a nonprofit for kids, and it's a free BMX park. They built this giant indoor BMX park recently, but they have their team of kids and young adults that they take around to like the small towns in Nebraska, the county fairs and whatnot. And they put on these stunt shows, and it's just a really inclusive, awesome community that we support. But it's NOWEAR.com. Really cool family. He's devoted his whole life to this cause. So he's a punk rock dude with the mohawk, and they do backflips on their BMX bikes, and it's kind of an awesome thing to see. But yeah, otherwise, we're going to be around until we can't anymore. So we're always out here doing what we
Hell
can.
yeah. Chris, I love it, man. All right. So this is where I shut it down. Everybody, you know the deal by now. You'll be able to find this on YouTube. You can find the spinoff on YouTube and on Facebook. Just search the spinoff. Make sure you put that little dash in between spin and off. You can also find it by searching my name, Brian Knutson. You'll be able to find the audio for this anywhere that you can find podcasts streamed. And that's going to be Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Take your pick. It's all there. You'll be able to find us at Twitter, and that'll be at Knutson_Brian. Or if you want to follow the Scarlet and Cream, that is at the Scarlet Cream. So, what I will say here, and this will be the weirdest sign off I've ever had since using your guys' intro music for my show, which, by the way, thank you so much for everything you did for me to pull that one off. Cannot thank you enough. So, for my guest, Chris from the Killigans, and I'd like to thank the Killigans for allowing me to use their music for the show. It has been amazing. I love it. Punches you right in the face and wakes you up. It's why it got picked. So you get the chance. Everybody check out the Killigans music. It is everywhere you can find music, and it is good. Like I said, it's uplifting, it's upbeat, and it'll keep you in a good mood. So for my guest, Chris from the Killigans, thank you so much, and I hope to have you and the rest of the band on again soon.
Definitely, man. Thank you. Go Big Red.